We've been covering a story this week that we've called Uganda Be Kidding Me, about an almost unbelievably harsh proposed new law that would sentence people to life in prison for being gay. It would sentence HIV-positive gay people to death by hanging. It would set a 3-year prison term for anyone who knew of a gay person but did not report that person to the government for prosecution. It's a bill being proposed in Uganda. Reuters reported this week it is on the verge of passing. It could, in fact, pass any day now. This anti-homosexuality bill, as they call it, would go so far as to make being gay an extraditable offense. So if a Ugandan citizen was suspected of being gay, even in some other country, that would be grounds to extradite that person back to Uganda for prosecution. Our coverage this week has focused not just on the extreme nature of the bill itself. Lots of countries have lots of extreme laws about sexuality and lots of other things besides. But the Uganda law is connected to some well-known Americans who have made Uganda sort of a test case over the years for American social conservatism. Megachurch pastor Rick Warren, for example, who was invited controversially to lead prayer at the Obama inauguration, proclaimed the nation of Uganda to be a purpose-driven nation. He also traveled to that country last year to proclaim publicly that he was siding with a Ugandan boycott of the Anglican Church because the Anglican Church was too pro-gay. American politicians, including Senators Sam Brownback, James Inhofe, Tom Coburn, and John Ensign, as well as Congressmen Joe Pitts and Bart Stupak, have all involved themselves in Ugandan politics to different degrees in the recent past. Some of them championed a reorientation of Uganda's previously rather successful fight against AIDS, so that Uganda dropped condoms in favor of abstinence-only instruction. Senators Brownback and Inhofe, for example, feature their recent trips to Uganda on their websites. All of these senators and members of Congress are members of the secretive religious group known as the Family, which is famous for running the C Street House in Washington. That's been implicated in all the major Republican sex scandals of 2009. Uganda has been a focus of the Family's international efforts for years. Its president, Uganda's president, described in Jeff Sharlett's book on the Family as the Family's key man in Africa. The person who wrote and introduced the Kill the Gays bill, Sharlett reports, is also himself a member of the Family. We're back with Congressman Anthony Weiner, Melissa Harris-Lacewell, and Nicholas Kristof. Thanks again for staying with us. Sure. Is it reasonable to expect that American politicians who have been, frankly, pretty interventionist in Uganda in the past should be trying to stop the Kill the Gays bill there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there should be a major effort to address not only that bill, but also the larger problem of homophobia in Uganda and around East Africa, because it has been a major impediment in fighting AIDS, and as you know already, being gay is punishable under the criminal sanctions of Uganda. I mean, this would make it much worse, but it's not as if there isn't a problem already.
Right. Well, how can the U.S. do that reasonably?
Yeah, I mean, wow, we were talking about the credibility gap relative to the drone attacks. That's really almost nothing compared to our credibility gap on homophobia. In a country where members of Congress represent districts in states where people who are gay and transgendered can be kicked out of their rental housing, can be denied job opportunities, can lose custody of their children depending on the state, in a place where we have impassioned speeches about the right to marry that are ignored by other members of a state legislature, where it is possible that Washington, D.C.'s marriage equality will be turned back by our very Congress. We have set an international tone indicating that gay, lesbian, and transgendered people are second-class citizens, even in our own country. So it becomes very, very difficult for us to moralize on these questions abroad.
The State Department told us this week, and I don't think they'd told anybody else, I think they gave us the statement exclusively, that they were starting to raise the issue with Ugandan authorities. Some other countries have as well. Sweden is threatening to yank all of the aid that they give to Uganda, which is about $50 million. The heads of state in both Canada and Britain raised the issue with Uganda's president at a meeting recently. Is there any reason that Uganda doesn't have... Can Uganda just say, forget about it, we're going to do whatever we want? Is there any meaningful way that we can pressure them?
Well, one thing we have to do is when someone like Senator Inhofe or Senator Brownback go to Uganda or try to intervene here in this negative way, our State Department should be there the next day. We should have the ambassador there standing up the next day. This is not U.S. policy. You know, it is easy for us to realize that while these guys might seem like yahoos to us, they're United States senators coming to a country like Uganda and then taking taking these positions and stating these views and advocating the way that we are. My concern is our State Department has to be right there, almost at the same time, saying, you know what, these are fringe senators who represent states that have less residents than Brooklyn, and this doesn't represent our position. And secondly, we have, I believe, become a little bit too timid generally about human rights. I think that it has to become much more part of what we as Democrats believe. We're running the House and the Senate and the presidency, and we still see trips to China that are light on human rights. We still see issues like this that fester for too long until someone writes an article in Vanity Fair. I believe we're not doing nearly enough, and we're also doing something else. By not responding more forcefully by the administration, we're allowing these voices to sound to important parts of the world as if they represent U.S. policy, which clearly they don't.
Nick, what are the most effective tools we've got for promoting human rights around the world?
Well, I mean, the bully pulpit President Obama has enormous influence throughout Africa, and particularly in Uganda, because his tribe, the Luo, his ancestral tribe, the Luo, is a major tribe in Uganda itself. And so we can exercise that bully pulpit. We have funds that we are giving to Uganda. Uganda is also very dependent on Western business community. It's trying to get Western businesses from Kenya to relocate to Uganda. We can apply that kind of a pressure, and I think we should.
Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York, Melissa Harris-Lacewell, Associate Professor of Politics and African American Studies at Princeton, New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof. You gave us a big chunk of your Friday night. I'm very grateful. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Unfortunately, I still have health care after this conversation.
Yeah. Melissa actually was just going to pickpocket you from it. Well done.